Hi guys, it's Joe Katz. Thanks so much for tuning into the Katz Walk. I've got my second part interview with Jaime King, who is a supermodel and transitioned her career into acting. She had a huge breakout role in Heart of Dixie on the CW, and now is the star and executive producer of the Netflix series Black Summer. She is going to talk all about her experience in acting, how she got into it, some great behind the scenes of Black Summer on Netflix, so stay tuned. Jaime, thank you so much for coming back and talking.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's so fun to have you on. And we talk so much. I mean, I could talk to you so long about all your modeling stuff. It's amazing. Everything you went through. I mean, we could probably even go for another hour.
There's so much more we could be talking about, I'm sure, between the both of us. It's a never-ending, beautiful book.
Yeah. A book is definitely, I could see in your future for sure. But I want to talk to you about all of your acting, because we talked about the modeling and I wanted everybody to hear about everything that you're doing, because you've really grown. And it's like, I mean, you've got a hit show now on Netflix, which is awesome. Black Summer.
So thankful.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. I want to give people just a little idea, and I want to learn too, because I know about some of it, but I remember when you got started, wasn't your first film, was it Pearl Harbor or no?
My first film was called Happy Campers, and it was written and directed by Daniel Waters. And Daniel wrote one of my favorite films called Heathers. And he had seen a picture of me when I was a model and wrote a character inspired by a photograph that he saw. And so Denise Denovi and Mike DeLuca, two brilliant producers, reached out. I flew out to Los Angeles and I auditioned about 6 times, got the part, and it was myself, Peter Stormare, Justin Long, like an extraordinary cast. And we shot it in North Carolina. And I remember when they called action, I froze and I looked to Justin Long and I was like, what do I do? He's like, no, you act. You know what I mean? It was like,
yeah.
And then my second film was Below with Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz.
Oh, wow.
Then I did Pearl Harbor. And then after that, I did Slackers with Jason Schwartzman and Jason Segel. I mean, so many, again, amazing actors. It was just, I look back on it, it's just wow. And so when you decided you're going to get into acting, what did that look like? Did you start going to an acting school or classes or coaches or what? How did that happen? To me, I think the biggest education that I got, to even become an actor was through watching so many films and listening to so much music and reading so much. So that was really like a foundation. And my friends that I met when I was still in the fashion industry, Joaquin Phoenix and Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Stephen Dorff, there were a group of these extraordinary actors that I met, and I would watch them, and the way that they would work. And they taught me so much, like so much about this industry that we're doing and the dedication and the work and the training and putting me with the right teachers and coaches. And, they were, still, doing scene studies, even though they had huge movies out, and really taught me the importance of that the craft comes first, and taught me about what it means to do press and how you should do it. And they always said, you don't do anything unless you know that a movie is coming out. You keep your private life private. And this was, at a time way before social media. You work, you do body movement training, you do vocal training, that you never stop. It's a limitless craft. And they set a bar for me that was, I'm so thankful for, because I look to them again, when they have huge careers and hit movies, and they were still treating it every single project, every single day as another opportunity to just, keep digging deeper.
So you had all different kinds of coaches and different like, did you do Meisner or Stanislavski or?
Yes, I mean, all of it, and very much rooted in the Actors Studio.
Oh, the Actors Studio.
But I've been trained in all of them and still training in all of them. You know, my teacher now is a woman named Nancy Banks, and she's phenomenal. My previous teacher and best friend passed away 2 years ago. She had cancer, and she was really like a deep love of my life, but she brought me to the depths of who I am and understanding how to merge who I am with the character and bring that to life. And she was one of the most extraordinary teachers on the planet. And when I started working with Nancy, Nancy was trained at Larry Moss, and she's amazing. You know, look at her work with Jen Aniston or Margot Robbie, or, like all these amazing people. And then I work with a man named Jean-Louis for movement. And there's teachers that come into your life and make a profound impact on the way that you approach any project. And I really feel like these teachers need to be celebrated, because as actors, they're like our anchor, our root, to connecting to the material, and they give you permission to connect it to it in a different way than you saw it before. And that's what's so exciting about, filmmaking in general, is there's always a different approach. There's always a different way in, and there's always a more articulate, multifaceted way to connect to and to share the truth. Mm-hmm. When I walk onto a set or approach a character, I may think I'm coming about it one way. It ends up being completely different. And that's the exciting part of it. With Black Summer, it is truly one of the most extraordinary, transcendental experiences that I've had as, an artist and as a producer. And, there was a moment, when we first started filming season 2 in February, mm-hmm. and then COVID hit, right? And then we were the first production to go back up for Netflix pre-COVID. I remember this moment of being on set where I was like, okay, let me just connect. And I was like, we say this a lot with acting. It's just, do what you were given and, use everything. When we say use everything, it's like use what's happening that's going on in that moment in your life personally, and just give it over. You're giving it over. And this kind of alchemy takes place where it's not reliant on sense memory or it's not reliant on just your imagination, or a flower smells like this, so I'm relating to, my air, personal. It's you have all of these different ways that you're trained. And then there was this moment where it was like all of those years just had this beautiful communion inside of me. I was like, oh, wow, I can just be right now. I can just be. I don't have to act. I don't have to be myself. I don't have to be Rose. I can just be. And it's hard to put words on it, but it's a combination of working with one of the greatest filmmakers I've ever worked with, John Himes, who makes every actor in person feel so safe. Is a combination of, Netflix and the studio and their belief in me and mm-hmm. putting me in a position of power to produce and star, as a woman, which is so rare, and, to tell stories and cast actors that, are unknown. It's like the whole process of it, and our crew, that has a kind of connection that's like, it's magical. And, when you have all of that around you as the actor, right, it creates that space. Then I'm creating the space. Then this thing happens it's indescribable, and it's just been amazing. And then, coming back into the production after COVID, when you have so many rules, you're quarantined, you're in a bubble, as the producer, it was challenging because I'm the star as well. So then I couldn't physically be on set. If I wasn't on camera, then even on set, I'm isolated from the other actors. So it's taking a very intimate, creative experience, and then it becomes very sterile and medical. And yet somehow, this group, our crew, our cast, us together got through it with joy and with humor. And
that's great.
Again, we used it all, and so,
yeah.
It's so important right now to be able to have a place to put all these big feelings that we have, all of us, I've always wanted to do what I do because when I was little and I would watch films and I would watch shows, I felt like it would be that one thing that was a salve for me to say, oh, I'm not alone in the world, because I could see through characters and through the stories myself or my story being told in some way, shape, or form. And so like that, it's an act of service, and it's art is powerfully healing. And so it's a real gift to do it and to be a part of it and to share it.
For sure.
It's always about the sharing of it.
I was just curious, when you said you used to watch when you were a little kid, who inspired you as an actor or actress? Like when you would watch and did they talk to you through, like I remember growing up and seeing like the Brady Bunch, and I remember Heart to Heart, Stephanie Powers, she always got in trouble. And I was always, all these funny shows that I was like, I just was curious, like who you like looked at and thought, oh, they kind of speak to me a little bit.
Michelle Pfeiffer, like anything Michelle Pfeiffer did, I was obsessed with. And Olivia Newton-John, because I love musicals. So it's like, Grease was a big film for me. And then I think, honestly, I think it's because Olivia did the first Grease, then Michelle did the second one. Right. And it really was a story about like an outcast that didn't fit in and had to, like that whole thing. But it combined everything that I love, which was, acting, singing, dancing, costumes, like, the idea, like exploring social dynamics and groups of people and who fits where and who doesn't and all of that. And Angelica Houston, I loved, and, Pacino and Nicholson. And I mean, there are so many different, Uma Thurman, Poitier. I mean, so many different actors that had like just a huge mark that I remember when I was really little. Betty Davis. There was something about Betty Davis that was just like, you knew she was just a different person. Like or Katharine Hepburn. It was like they were feminine and masculine. They were everything in between. They owned who they were, individually and as the character, even though I didn't know anything about them at that time, but you could feel it through their performances. It's funny how people make a mark on you when you're really little.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Huge impression. Yeah. And I remember you telling me about when you were doing Black Summer with the whole COVID thing and like how you had to be, basically you're by yourself, right? Like you couldn't be with other people. And they were like, what is it? Green, yellow, and red zones,
you have like red zone, yellow zone, a green zone, and purple. And so purple are the actors. So a purple zone, it means essentially we would say, oh, walking purple. Purple means you have no PPE on, and that's like super, like no one can come near you. Like, because when we take our PPE off, because cameras are going to roll, and the only people that are even allowed in that zone or near that zone have to be fully in PPE, and the only people that are allowed to are the director, the cinematographer, your camera operator, your AD department. It's like very, very strict. And we have what we call, the COVID police, which is HSS department, a new department. And thank God for them, that really make sure that no one is near. They make sure you have your, like for instance, if someone were to come on, if wardrobe needed to touch something on me, they would have to be in a full gown, mask, goggles, face shield, and gloves, right? And so if they were coming to adjust this, right, they'd have to have all that on. But if they stepped away, if they moved their hands once and stepped away, even like just like this, they'd have to disrobe, take all of the PPE off, recycle that, put all new back on, right? So it's, thank God, like our set has so much fun, and we could, it's humor, right? So we would figure out a way to make it fun, and joke around about it, but knowing that it was really serious and really, really strict. And And we had the dedication, the ethic, because we love this show so much and love what we do so much, and how necessary it is right now for us to be like even the opportunity in the first place to get anything made in Hollywood is seemingly impossible. But then when that's like the love of your life is to create films and television, to do that, and then, the responsibility of when you have that opportunity. And, with COVID, to be the first production back up was like, oh, whatever we do here is vital. It's vital, because if we can get through this, then we can share that with other productions. So other productions go back up. So the whole industry is relying on each other right now to get it back up. And most importantly, we need stories to get out to audiences because they need it. Art heals. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when we went up there, we were on essential workers visas. And there were 7 given from the Prime Minister. And I was talking to my makeup artist, Ashley Levy, and she was like, when I got that visa, it was like the first time that I felt like really seen and heard for what it is that I do. Because, and it really struck me, and I understand, because people think that filmmaking or acting or, being on a production is some glamorous thing. We're shooting, 15, 16 hours a day. We are, required to be away for months at a time, traveling or, because it requires so much time and so much dedication and like the blood and the sweat and the tears. And, so I really understood what she meant when she said that, Wow. People think it's like you go and you play dress up, and it's just so, it's so much
deeper. Yeah. So much deeper than that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to see like what you did on the show. I was watching, and it was like so intense. Like there's so much like intensity of it. And it really, you were talking about like before we had chatted about how it really has a social meaning.
Very much so. So the show,
in what way?
When Trump was elected, and kids were getting ripped away and separated from their families at the border, and a culmination of so much injustice and so much, inherent racism, xenophobia, homophobia, all of these, there's such a division in the country, and it was like really like a tipping point. And how do we talk about this? What does that look like? And, in the show, people think it's just about like zombies or something like that. But interestingly enough, there wasn't even like the word zombie in the first script that I read. People were getting sick. And the sickness is representative of the division and the hatred, and that no one is immune to it, that we have to come together as a collective to, what would that look like if there was a pandemic? And then boom, like the pandemic, it was like, oh my God, like when you watch the first episode, the government doesn't know what's happening. We don't know what's happening. Right. No one knows what's happening. And it was crazy because like when, like the week before everyone was shut down because of COVID, brilliant young actress who plays my daughter, Zoe, and I were in the middle of a scene, and we're like, oh my God, we're like making a movie, but living in a movie about the movie. It was just super surreal, wow. Right? It was like, how is this happening? That we started talking about this and making this thing. And then all of a sudden people were getting sick, and no one knew what this thing was and what did that look like. And people were, racing to buy toilet paper and commodities and supplies. And, and those were the stories we were telling, where it's like money, in a way, it wasn't about money. It was about, do you have enough food? Do you have water? Right. Kind of, it's crazy how that works.
Because it's like nothing we've ever experienced. It's really nothing that I've ever experienced in all my gajillions of years being here, but it's like, it's weird, it's just like a odd.
There's no words.
Yeah, there really isn't. And it's amazing. And you got through it. How many months did you shoot?
August, September, October. I wrapped on the 21st, came back to Los Angeles for a few days and flew down with my children to Puerto Rico to do my film with Bruce Willis. And then, again, getting productions up and running is so challenging, and there are all these like contingencies, right? So, for instance, when we got there, some tests were positive or inconclusive. So then, obviously, you're already quarantined. But
they were false positives and things like that. So then you have to, everyone, like hundreds of people are retested. Then you're waiting for the test and the labs don't turn around the test depending on the spikes of the city or the place at that time. And, so, and Puerto Rico was on a curfew and a lockdown. So you just have to be super malleable and flexible and, and dedicated, because no one knows what's going on right now.
No, we're all learning.
Period.
Yeah,
we're all just learning. Like, okay, how do we identify what we're feeling in each moment? Because it's like everything that we know as routine or structure or a reference point has essentially been eradicated, right?
Right. What is the film with Bruce Willis about? Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yes, it's called Out of Death. And it's essentially about a woman who is grieving the loss of her father and really the lack of relationship that she had with him. She goes on this hike, this, journey to spread his ashes, and she witnesses a corrupt cop murder. So it's really about, the abuse of power.
And who does Bruce Willis play?
He plays a cop as well. And so I'm not a cop, but it's about, cops that are good, cops that are corrupt, and a person that is like, I don't trust any of you. Who do I believe? That has to fight against it all and then learn how to trust again, and whilst going through this journey of grieving. Bruce was brilliant he's the best, Yeah. And it was very timely, because I feel very strongly about these issues.
Did that script just happen to come through, or was that something you were working on?
It's funny how that works sometimes. I literally just got a call and I was quarantining with one of my best friends here and, during the protests and all of this stuff, and boom, it was just like, you got this film offer and it's with Bruce and this is what it's about. And I was like, it's perfect.
Wow. It's so interesting because I look at your career and I look at I think of Heart of Dixie, where you play this, like Heart of Dixie was just like,
favorite.
It was like lighter but it was just like you played this like aristocratic girl and, but it's so interesting to see that compared to when I looked at Black Summer, it's like, whoa, those are like two different things. Like this is very lighter, fun, and then this is dark. And it sounds like the Bruce Willis thing is even also, what do you prefer? Do you it seems like you're really, when I watched that opening scene of you in Black Summer, so intense of you climbing up on that chain.
And we shoot in oneers. So it's like a play on film. We shoot for up to 15 minutes without cutting, so it's very immersive, and really rare that you're ever given an opportunity to do something like that. But we're so lucky to be able to do that. I honestly love it all. And I'm looking for always what it is that's going not only challenge me, but how can I explore humanity and reflect humanity back to humanity in the most powerful way. And, doing Heart of Dixie and coming as a film actor into television and approaching it like I would a film, and creating a very nuanced, layered character when the material is light was a really fun thing to do, because you could look at Lemon Breland on a page and, they were having a really hard time casting it and they had offered it to me multiple times. And I said no, because I didn't have interest at that time in doing television. And I didn't know if I would be allowed to approach Lemon the way that I would as, doing films, because at that time it was different kinds of acting, right? I sat down with the showrunner and the creator and she's like, no, you're the one that I know that you're the one, please, and when she explained it and that I could root it in something that mattered to me, which was taking this idea of, a woman from the South who was raised with certain traditions and put up on a pedestal, who felt very strongly about things. But when you really look at it, it was like she was raised without a mother. She had to raise herself, and her little sister taught that you have to be married and it has to look like this. And if not, then somehow you're a failure, right?
And or you don't fit in Yeah.
It's like, here are the rules and you must adhere by them. And it's really, it really becomes an exploration of a woman that feel strongly about where she comes from. And at the same time, really becomes like a feminist. She's a white woman that's in love with a Black man, and engaged to a white man, and so it's like, it's light, but when you look at it, we were really talking about other things there, and with Black Summer, it's the same thing. So I'm always looking for things that have that where I can turn it on its head, and that's the fun thing about this work, and I do believe that when someone is cast in something, or when you're writing something or directing something, producing, so many things have to align for and I'm putting it mildly, as for it to happen. So I do believe that it's like, if you're meant to do that thing, you're going to do it. And that, I always think about fingerprints, right? I know if I read a script or if I'm writing something, what is for me versus what is for another actor or another filmmaker or another writer. When is it time to say, oh, that's not mine, that's for them? And for me, what I love the most is to be in a position where I can create things for other people, where they can tell their stories, other actors, other directors. That's why I love producing so much, and why I love directing or writing,
It's interesting though, because in Hollywood, I feel like living here in LA, everybody is about me. Oh my God, I got this. I got this. This is a part for me. Like, you would think you'd want to give me that part, and I'll take that part, and I'll do this.
I feel the opposite. I love actors. I love the grip department. I love electrics. I love set deck. I love all of these artists. You know what I mean? And so when you have the experience of seeing people do what they do brilliantly, and you're lucky enough to be a part of what that feels like, I'm just like, what does it look like for me to be able to create more of that? And that's, again, why just acting is way too limiting for me. Way too.
And produce and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would I was just thinking about this as you were talking, because I'm looking at you going, oh, there's that girl from Nebraska. There's that little girl from Nebraska. And I'm that little boy from Iowa, but we've all grown up. But what would you tell that little girl like a little girl watching you from Nebraska that's 13, that's like, God, I would do anything to be Jaime King. Like, if I could do that, how could she do it? What if she can't model? What if she just wants to come to Hollywood and she wants to do it? What would you say?
I believe that people can do anything. I really do. And I'm not trying to sound lofty. I know it. Because that's my experience of a kid that came from nothing, from the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And through a lot of hard work and a lot of study and a lot of grace, and there's miracles along the way. To a kid in Nebraska, it's like, now it's such a different time. You have social media, you have, different ways of receiving information. It's like, study films, study the artists that you love, learn about that. There's endless ways to learn about it. There's endless ways to create things now, even if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, or wherever you are. You can grab your iPhone and make a movie.
Yeah.
Do it.
Right.
You can do it, just do it.
You can. I mean, people create their own thing and they become viral, or maybe they don't become viral, maybe they just make what they love. And we couldn't do that.
No, we didn't have, it was so different then, right? It's just so different. And when you said it could go viral, or even if it doesn't go viral, you could make what you love. That really hit in my heart in such like a beautiful way, because it's true. I just want to do what I love. And I know that you want to do what you love. People, human beings want to do what they love. There's a strange thing about work, like that you can't actually have fun doing your work. Like there's a lot of, I think, messaging around like, if you love something, it doesn't mean that can be your career. Or if you love something that
it's a hobby. It's a hobby. Yeah, it's your hobby. It's a fun hobby. And you should keep that, but keep that full-time job with benefits.
Precisely. Yeah. And I think, we're all kind of learning, and I think especially through a pandemic, it's like, my God, like do what you love and do it for you. Because I think that the more that we start to do what we love, the more that we start to attract a world and an experience that is beyond what we could ever possibly imagine. Truly.
Yeah. It's just, I think a lot of times, and I've known this even for myself sometimes, and I know with even other friends, we go, well, I don't know if I can really support myself doing that. Wouldn't I love to? Of course, I'd love to. I'd love to have Jaime's career because she's producing that. She's on Netflix. She gets all that. This is amazing. But you had to take risks too. But I mean, a lot of people.
Everything is a risk. Everything is a risk.
Yeah.
And it's all the risk taking that is why I'm here now. But there's still always risk. It's like there are huge things I've done that I did for nothing. And I not knowing whether it was going to be huge or not. I think people have a misconception about Hollywood and doing something and like everyone's millionaires, you get millions of dollars for it's like, that's really not the case. Like, it's really not,
right.
It's like, you're hustling, you're rejected thousands of times before you're said yes to. And even when you get a yes, it doesn't mean that the next one's going to be a yes. It's a consistent thing. You have to love it so much that there's nothing else you can do in a strange way. There's no quitting on yourself because it's bigger. Does that make sense?
One thing I'm thinking, if people look at you and they go, well, Jaime King, she wasn't rejected. Was she?
Oh my God. Like
really?
All the time. Yeah.
All the time?
Yeah.
You mean in acting roles and stuff like that?
Yeah, all actors are. That's the process. You go into a room and present your if you're auditioning for something, you're presenting the way that you see that character.
Yeah.
But it's, again, it becomes more and more nuanced and layered, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of being willing to literally unzip your soul and your, what I call our human suit, step into something and saying, okay, I'm just going to give it all right now. And I don't know what's going to happen, but this is what I'm going to do. Like, that's it. And then
like standing naked in front of somebody.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's what it is. And that's what it means to really be an actor. I know that now I finally feel like I'm in the position where there's grace, in terms of, oh, wow, I really earned where I am right now. I've earned my position as a producer. I've earned I've earned everything that I've done.
What would you say to somebody that says, you know what, I have a full-time job, I have benefits, it's super secure, I feel safe, but it's not something I really like. I'd love to be an actress. I'd love to be a singer. I want to do that, but I'm too scared because it's like, I'm going to lose my money. I'm going to lose my benefits. I could go homeless. I could be all of that. So is it worth it to just say, I'll take it as a hobby, or should I jump in, or what would your advice be?
I'm the kind of person that say, just jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Really, because what I do is essentially freelance. There's no guarantee that I'm going to have a next job, just like you. It's like, there's no security in what it is. The only security that I know that I have is that I do what I love, and I do it very well. Yeah. And I get to share that with people. And, and also there is a practicality thing, right? So if it's something that you love, that you want to do, it's not like, okay, just burn everything to the ground. Is there a way that you can, go from full-time to part-time? Every individual is different, and it's, I would never advise, people to just quit everything and do what they love if they don't have the capacity to handle that thing. I feel like the more that we can, find out ways to dip our toes into doing what we love. Like, is there a local theater? Is there a role that you could audition for? And if you went to part-time, that you could do that. Like, it's, and then see what that feels like, so the more we start to do what we love and experience the fullness of what that gives us, the more confidence we have to move into that.
Right.
And I think
that makes sense.
There's always different ways.
When you talk about confidence, and because this whole podcast too is about fashion and style, it makes me think about confidence in, people look at you too and they go, Jaime is so cool. Like, she can rock a sweatshirt with a cool chunky necklace. So if you can't see this, you got to log on to YouTube and watch the video and you can see what Jaime's wearing.
Oh my God,
but she's just rocking this. Yeah, and your sweatpants. But, you've got this cool style. Like, what would you say to somebody that just says, God, how do I kind of put stuff together? How would I rock a style? How would I get a cool vibe, like Jaime? Do you have any advice?
How do I explain it? It's a feeling.
Right.
My friend and collaborator, Chris, and this is her new line. And I love the color of the sweatshirt. I love the sweatshirt. So I was like, oh, that's fun. That reminds me of Joe. They're like, that's oh, that makes me happy today. And then I, saw this necklace just sitting on my dresser. And I was like, oh, well, why not? Let's just see how that looks. And it's like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, do I wear jeans? And I was like, oh, let's just go with sweatpants because that's what feels comfortable. And I'm like, oh, I like that color. It's just like, it's being willing to put things together that I guess people wouldn't normally think of, but I'm not thinking of it like that. I'm just approaching like Marie Kondo, right? When she says, does that bring you joy or something like that? The idea that does it spark joy? So go for the things that spark joy and be willing to, break rules, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And try little trends. If you haven't tried trends, maybe try them in a small way or something like that.
Exactly. I was writing for Ariana Huffington when Huffington Post first launched, and there are a lot of people are like, "Oh, I really love this trend on a runway, but I don't feel like with my body type I can wear that." Or I really love this leopard print thing, but like I feel like kind of afraid. And it's like you could just get socks. Animal print socks. Just start with a scarf with, polka dots, vertical, whatever it is, right? Start small. And then the more, again, it's like what you love, right? The more that you start to sort of lean into it and you're like, oh, that feels good. That feels like fun. I really like that. Does it bring you joy? Then you start to become more emboldened and empowered to express yourself in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. It's like little things like that. People think they have to wear or try to be like a certain a picture that they saw in InStyle or Vogue or, and it's like, that's an extreme jump ahead.
Completely extreme. Yeah. And also, all the work and the curation and it's like style it's an energy too, right? It's part of style and fashion is also how we carry ourselves or how we feel in something, so how does something make you feel or what do you want to feel more of? And what would that look like in terms of, fashion? Right. It's like red lipstick, right? Like, for me, like when I put on red lipstick, it's like, there's something that it does. And it's interesting when you look at red lipstick with history, even in times of war or the Great Depression, the one sales that would always remain consistent, if not skyrocket, was red lipstick. And I think that says a lot about the power of something seemingly small. And other people are like, oh, it's war paint. It's that thing that makes you, what is that thing that makes you feel more confident and stepping out into the world, even in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. And that isn't that's a little risk. It's a little risk. Yeah. You take these smaller risks,
Yeah.
Yeah. I could keep talking another 40. I think we're already 45 minutes, but I have one burning last question.
Yeah.
And it is, what is one thing that you haven't told anybody that you think could help somebody? One thing you haven't told anybody before that you're going to share with Joseph Katz on the Catwalk that would help somebody in their life. It can be personal. It can be not. It can be inspirational. It can be truthful. I want it to be anything.
I'm thinking of all the different. There's so many different things. Well, we've talked about being different, but really, it's okay to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to feel like you don't belong. It's okay if you don't feel like you're a part of a group or, for instance, a lot of the times, whether it's some big party or a holiday or Disneyland or something like that, I've always had a really challenging time experiencing the same kind of joy that people feel for these things. Like, we're at Disneyland, everyone's so happy. And I'm like, why am I not as happy as everyone when we're in the happiest place on earth? And it's Christmas Day. I should be so joyful. Everyone's celebrating. And it's like, why don't I feel that same thing? It's like when we have different internal experiences than other people on the outside world, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with us, because talking about doing what you love, I know that I experience that, the joy that people feel at Disneyland, or a joy that people feel at a party, having a conversation with you. This conversation brings me that kind of joy and that happiness and that oneness and the togetherness of community and relating to human beings. You know, it's, if you have that experience, know that there are places where you will experience that joy and that happiness. And it just may look different than other people, but it's there.
I love that, because, you know, we're not alone. And sometimes it's about connecting, you know, and being truthful with one another and being truthful with each other about stuff, about how we feel. Because I think so much we have shades up, and, you know, we have certain things in the world that we portray this image, right? Our mask, exactly. Our mask.
Who we are when you go to Ralph's versus, you know, when you're in your car by yourself, or us doing this interview where we have a connection, we have a capacity, you and I, to be really honest and real with each other, where we can do that, you know, but who we are, if we're on a red carpet, or when you're at the bank, or, you know, like with a lover, or it's like, it's every person on this planet has thousands of masks without necessarily even being aware of them, you know? And so every time that we can take them off and reveal ourselves and experience that oneness and the connection of community, and that we're all just here, like doing the best that we can, really. Like we're all connected, and we're all having a human experience, and there's billions and infinite shades of reference points of what that looks like. But I do believe at the core, we all want to love freely and to be loved unconditionally.
Jaime, thank you so much for being honest.
Thank you.
Like, and to be like truth, not just like, but to be heartfelt and honest and open and share yourself. Cause that's, I mean, I'm honestly telling you that, like, sometimes people don't always do that. And we wear our masks, and even in our interviews, you know, like, I think, you know, and you have to keep them on at all different times, but I appreciate you being truthfully honest and sharing your story and inspiring others. You inspire me.
You inspire me. So thank you for creating a space to allow that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Can't happen without you here.
Thank you. So, but we'll talk again.
We will. I love you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jaime. Thanks for listening to The Katz Walk. Make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. This has been a production of Evergreen Podcast. A special thank you to executive producer Gerardo Orlando, producer Leah Longbreak, and audio engineer Dave Douglas.